G'day guys, what's cracking? It's Ralph Maker here, and today I have for you Viltrox's AF35 1.7 aperture Z Mount lens for APS-C or crop sensor or DX cameras. Now, if you're wondering what that is, basically crop cameras are different to full frame cameras. Full frame cameras, if it's a 35mm, that's your standard 35mm. If it's a 35mm on a crop sensor like this, you have to multiply it by 1.5 and that gives you the full frame equivalent. 1.5 multiplied by 35 is 52.5mm, so this is the equivalent to a 50mm. So if you put it on your crop sensor and you put a 50mm on a full frame, you'll get about the same field of view. Now that we've got all that out of the way, its build quality is plastic with the lenses inside, obviously the glass lens. It is not a telephoto, it's a prime, so it doesn't extend bigger than that, and it's very lightweight, which is ideal when you've got it on the front of your camera and you're just carrying it around, or it's tucked away in your bag as a backup for, well, that certain shot that you're looking for. Has these two caps on the front, on the back, with its bayonet just here, and it only is very simple build, just has your focus ring, so that is nice and big and fat and wide and you can't miss it. And the lens here is 28mm, but it's actually 52mm, so if you want to put a filter on it, you're looking for a 52mm filter that'll screw onto that nice and happy as you go. I put this lens on a Z50 because that's an APS-C. Also the ZFC and the Z30, which I'm filming this on, are APS-C cameras. So I put that on and I went down the street. It had been raining a little bit and got some really cool shots. So now I'd like to talk you through that so you can see what this lens can actually do. Here are the photos. In the top left hand corner you can see all the data for each photograph. So we started at 6.3 35mm, there's the name of the lens, and let me have a show you. This is 100%, so zoom in and look how sharp that is, like all the way through. I was super impressed, like right from the get up. Hello, how's it going? And let's go to the corners straight away and see the sharpness there. So that's pretty sharp. And that's pretty sharp. And then obviously these are going to be less sharp because they're further away and we're shooting on 6.3, but even they're pretty sharp. So really happy about the corners straight off the bat. Now moving along, I wanted to see how good the autofocus was. So the autofocus is very quick, very smooth, and very accurate. And this was shot through a puddle, and these signs are obviously up here, but it shoots super quick. So look at how quick it picked that up. I was very, very impressed by that. This was shot on an f-stop of 2.5, and I wanted to get this in focus because it was just random. I'm like, what's that doing here, with a bit of background, so you can sort of see this is really quite, it's 2.5. I was a couple of meters away. It's all really sharp and good. It just tends to be a little bit muddy in that corner. Not too bad. And then drops away quite dramatically once we hit even past this plane of focus here. Now there were some trees and I decided to shoot up into the trees. This is at f1.7 and this is at f7.1, and I wanted to see if we had much issue with chromatic aberration. That's when there's like pink highlights, and we do a little bit. You see that? So when it shoots on a very high aperture of 1.7, we start to get chromatic aberration. Now you can get rid of that really quite easily by going down here to lens corrections, going remove chromatic aberration, and realize it's already been removed. Look at that. When you put remove chromatic aberration, it gets worse. Let's take that off. Yeah. So it just has some pink on the lower aperture, but on the higher aperture, there's none to be seen. Just make sure. There's none to be seen. It's pretty good, pretty safe. So good to know if you're shooting at 1.7 and you're shooting against a white background with dark foreground, you will get some chromatic aberration. Now let's move on. I really like this shot. I just like how it's just squared up here, and the keg star, because they're all kegs, is actually in focus. I did a little bit of shot on 2.8, so as it goes down here, these quickly go into bokeh and blur, but you get to see, so this is how sharp it is, and then you get to see the drop off. And so the drop-off is quite quick, quite considerable. And then right at the end, it's really nice and blurry. You get a really good feel for that. Then I want to go the opposite. I want to shoot on f14, and I actually focused on this. So that's not bad. It looks quite noisy. See that? It's quite noisy, but the bin should be in focus too. And the bin is. Our ISO is 2800. I shot it way too fast, so I could actually calm all that noise down and it'd be a better shot, but I wanted to show you the focus. And when it's shot at f14, basically everything in your shot is in focus. Then they had this cool bike, and so I dropped the f-stop down to 5.6, so hopefully, isn't that interesting? So you can see all this is in focus. I was quite close, and the wall obviously isn't, but the focus starts to fall off after a little bit of depth, so I'm fairly close. That's me right there. It was just interesting. Then I went to this shot. Now this shot is 5.6 aperture. All of this is blurry. I'm really quite sharp. Looking sharp, Ralph. Oh dear, sorry everyone. Let's just do a little quick edit. I just want to bump up the shadows, really. Yeah, so that you can see the lens. And so I just thought it was a creative, cool shot. And obviously when you shoot through glass, it depends what you focus on. So you can actually focus on the glass or the reflection behind the glass. Always good to know. And if you want to kill a reflection, use a CPL filter. But the lens came up really, really well. And the 5.6 meant the lens, the camera, and my face could all be in focus, while everything else was lost. If I'd have shot that at 1.7 or a 2.8, you would have seen quite a difference between this lens being in focus and my face not being in focus. But you can see the quality. Look at those, all those wrinkles, all that hard work, that grey hair. That's what life has done to me. But you can see the quality you can get out of this when you're shooting portraits and people's faces. You really get quite good quality. Then there was this sign, so I thought, let's try and get all of the sign in play. This is about 7 or 8 meters above my head. I'm shooting up. I focus right here, so that's nice and sharp. But at f10, when something's 8 meters away, poor lady, she looks quite distorted there, but that's all good. It's all good. ISO is 280, so it's really quite low and manageable. And I've got a dust spot there. Dear, oh dear. That all looks good though, pretty happy with that. And no chromatic aberration happening right there. It's f10, so I wouldn't expect that to be the case. Then I thought, let's do an f-stop check and see if there's any vignetting. So this is at 2.5, there's no vignetting. Then we go to f7.1, and again, there's no, like, let me just see, there's no vignetting at that. And then it was, oh my gosh, look how dirty my sensor is. Do not tell the folks at Viltrox I made a video with such a dirty sensor. Sorry, crew. Look at that. There's no vignetting, so lens is spot on. If you're worried about vignetting, none at all. Lens is good to go. Then what I thought I'd do is see what gradients the f-stop. So I basically put this in focus, and I have this emblem on the wall, and I'm just going to walk you through. So this is 1.7. This is 2. So I start at 1.7, I jump up 2 clicks on the aperture wheel. So 2 clicks gives me 2, f-stop of 2. This is in focus, nice and close. I was pretty close to it. And I want you just to look at the wires and then the second light and then this light. So that was f2, f2.5, f3.2. So as you can see, in that lower end of the aperture, you get tons of range, you get tons of options with this lens to play about with. Then it starts coming a bit clearer. We start to see this at f4. Then let's go f5, f6.3, and this is starting to get in focus, but not quite. Then we go to f8. And then when we go to f9, this starts to come into focus. It's not quite there yet, and I'm quite surprised at f11, but our emblem on the wall is starting to look good. So if you're really close, and I was like a meter away, if you're really close to something, you get to see the effects of the f-stop as it goes up. Then we went to f14, and not brilliant, is it? Isn't that interesting? But this starts to come really quite clear. And then that was the final one, f16. That's what it goes right up to. And that's not quite in focus because the wall was about 4 meters away from me and I'm standing half a meter to this. So it focuses on that and therefore throws all that into blur. So good to know. Then there was this epic garage door. Like, look at this. And I thought, what should I shoot that on? Like f8, could go f2.8. I just wanted it all in focus. So I shot with plenty of light. 1/160 is what I wanted to shoot with. ISO of 100, which is what the Z50 operates at, and an f-stop of 8. And I just like it. It's just cool. I don't know, is there much else to say about a cool photo other than it's cool? Then we had this this little creature eating the car. Thank you very much. F-stop at 9 because I want the car to be in focus. So I want to hold that all focus. So this is f-stop of 8. This is an f-stop of 9. But you'll notice that the lens is sharp. It's sharp at whatever we shoot with, right? And that's what I wanted to show you on this, that regardless of what aperture you shoot, it is a sharp lens that you can rely on. Then I go to this cool little branch. I shot the branch. There's just something about this shot. Like there's a tree growing in the middle of this mural. There's a security camera. They didn't come out and shoot me or lock me up. Pretty happy about that. But that's just, yeah, I just like it. I just like it. No need to justify every shot, Ralph. And then some more wall art, and just wanted to capture some of this. When you're doing street photography, you're wandering around and you're looking for those cool things that capture your imagination. It's been raining and people have been a little bit on edge in Burley recently, so I didn't want to take many photos of people today, which is why people are missing. This was really interesting though, 6.3, and this is blurry. But I focused just here. So 6.3 plane of focus goes about there, so about there, and I just kind of like the shot. It's a little bit arty, and we could actually make this even more arty by putting that right in the center, straightening it up, and go about there. And then I could just put a little bit of an edit on it. I actually like it a bit darker. I'm going to increase the contrast. I'm going to bump up, and there you go. That's there's some street photographers that could make that look good, and then there's me. Please don't turn off if you're like, oh gosh. This is cool. This is just this restaurant called Manor, and I just focused on the tree, but I thought I'll focus on the tree, but I want to get everything in focus. So the depth here is a couple of meters. I'm about 4 meters away. I wanted to make sure the rendering was in focus, the tree was in focus, and the door was in focus as it gets framed in here. And I think it nailed that shot. I really enjoy that shot. And I was walking past this car, and what I thought is, let's go 1.7 and go super close as I can. And when I did this, I'm about 30 centimeters away. The minimum focusing distance is 33 centimeters, so I got about as close as I could possibly get. So let's say I'm 33 centimeters away, which is 330 mils for those of you that can't do maths, sorry. The S5 is in focus, and it's interesting. This is in focus, and it starts to get out of focus there. Look how quickly this Audi runs out of focus. And so I really like that. If you go really close, up to 0.33, you actually get really quick blur, but the field of focus isn't terrible. It's not terrible. It's actually quite attractive. Sometimes the field of focus is so slim that I feel like immediately after what you've got, it just loses its punch. I like a little bit of depth of focus. Then there's this record shop. It looks cool. And what I thought I'd do with this, not that we're really into that today, but I can just run a really quick edit over it. And I thought it'd just be a cool shot. And you can see the chromatic aberration on that, right? This is the transform tool, and you use it when you're shooting real estate just to square everything up. And so I'm just going to square all this up. This is on Lightroom, and good. There you go. If you want to make sure something's centered, you just click on that, and you can go and go through your different configurations and grids to make sure you've got what you want. Hopefully you've learned something from this video. We're nearly at the end. This is cool. So 2.5, I'm about 1 meter away from my phone, and my phone is nice and crispy and clear. So the camera, I thought that'd be interesting, and then it just fades away to these tables. There was a row of tables. I would actually, if I'm editing this, it was a very rainy and miserable day, but I would probably do something like this, I think. Yeah. So sometimes you can actually increase the exposure on a photo, and it gives you a different look than if I went auto on this. I would actually, you're just like, oh, it's a plane, it's a different photo. But if you increase the exposure, you might want to drop the shadows a bit, increase the exposure. You can muck about with the highlights and whatever. You just get a different feel for the shot. Not everyone's cup of tea, but I think it's good to actually give it a run for its money. Then I thought, let's do some panning. So these are just panning shots. And a panning shot, look at that. I've got 1/20th at f/16. So normally all of this should be in focus. That's why there's a squiggle here in this, because when you put your lens or your camera into a high aperture, your sensor, and this is a sensor problem, just looks filthy. I just need to clean my sensor. Anyway, we'll push on. So just want to show you as we go through. I just shot a number of cars in a row, and to see how it went, it looks pretty good. I mean, it's good. Panning is so much about technique, and well, I didn't have a lot of time to perfect the old technique. But look at him. He's in focus. Everything else is moving. How cool is that? It's just great. He was driving this massive crane. And then we'll just go through these. You got the wheel there, door frame. Yep. Well, that's pretty cool. I like that. opposite the church here. And yeah, like, it's good. Anyway, that's what it can do when it comes to panning. Whew. How's it going low light? Well, today the light was just rubbish. There was no like bright light. It was all overcast, all miserable. I had to exercise the ISO, and you saw that as the ISO increased really quite high, it started to get a little bit muddy, a little bit noisy, but actually I was really impressed that it actually held the sharpness and the quality of the lens when you're shooting in low light. So you can take this into all manner of things, and just remember that when you're shooting low light, sometimes you actually need a tripod. If the light's not great and you're like at a party or whatever, I think you'll be happy with the results you can get out of this. You've seen these photos. I'm going to edit some of them up and you'll see them at the end of this video, just because I kind of like them. What did you think of the shots? What do you think of the lens? Have you got any questions for me that I can try and answer down in the comments below? Thanks Viltrox for sending it to me. I appreciate that. It's great to have this partnership. 1.7 gives just nice, right? You get like super fast, you let heaps of light in, and that bokeh you create is just banger. So I really like it. It's really sharp, does the job. There'll be links in the description below for this. Please like, subscribe, tell all your friends, share the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Oh my gosh, I stuffed it. You know why I stuffed it? Because there were some people I actually nearly needed to sit on their table, and they were having breakfast, and I felt really awkward, and so I just snapped the shot, and I did not focus it. This is an example of what happens when you don't focus.